I just think the guilt of it all, especially in the Caribbean culture, can be overwhelming and often stop you from taking action in your life. What is dreamer's guilt? Let's start with the basics. In this episode, I want to share my experience as a dreamer and the associated guilt. And then, because I'm someone who believes that emotions drive are that you are pursuing a goal and a dream that you think will change everyone's life in your ecosystem, but then you're guilty about the pursuit of that dream. Who do you think you are to pursue? I acknowledge the feelings, the guilt that thrives, and I practice self-compassion a lot. Guilt is heavy, especially in mom guilt. I have always journaled, and at one point, and what the purpose is, it is not just to be. Welcome to this episode of How Do You Divine Dreamer's Guilt? And scenarios like this remind me why it's very important to shoot with two cameras, because I have just filmed this entire episode and only one angle of the camera was shooting. So this episode will be shown in various different ways from different end rolls. And hopefully you enjoy it. And I apologize for the different experience, but do I apologize? Maybe not, because it was meant to be this way. Have you watched some other episodes? If not, let me know in the comments what you think about this episode. What is dreamer's guilt? Why? How did you even come up with that concept? I just think the guilt of it all, especially in the Caribbean culture, can be overwhelming and often stop you from taking action in your life. Above all, take action. Put one step in front of the other, closer and closer towards what you desire. And it's okay not to know the ultimate dream, but let's start to make some goals. And from goals, we'll create some tasks. And as you know, those tasks will come with timelines so that we continue to put our foot in front of the other, closer and closer towards a life that we desire and not the one that we just seeked. Dreamer's guilt originates from achieving personal dreams, success, opportunities, especially when others in your community or family or a social circle has not had the same. This causes a vague reason, often seen in individuals who break barriers, achieve upward mobility, or leave behind difficult circumstances to pursue a better life. Something as simple as pursuing a college degree. The guilt and the obligation that comes with pursuing that dream should never weigh down the happiness and the success and the peace that comes from living a life that you orchestrated alongside with God. In this episode, I hope you enjoyed my experience with dreamer's guilt and what is that. Welcome to How Do You Divine, the show where we explore the words and concepts that shape our lives, one thought-provoking conversation at a time. I'm your host, Sanika Nikki, and today we dive into a topic that's as complex as it is deeply human: dreamer's guilt. Whether it's walking away from a car accident, surviving an illness, or living through a traumatic event that others didn't survive, survivor's guilt can weigh on the minds and souls like anchors. What is it really? Why do we experience it? How do we navigate it in a way that allows us to live fully while honoring those who didn't have the same fortune? Stick with me. We'll unpack it. First, let's unpack what everyone knows, which is what is survivor's guilt. Let's start with the basics. Survivor's guilt is a form of self-blame that often, when someone survives a situation where others didn't, or they felt that they benefited in a way where others suffered, that is where that guilt comes from. And I am no doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I am speaking from firsthand experience. And you might feel like, why them and not me? Or did I deserve to survive? And these thoughts come up in mixed different ways of sadness and confusion, even shame, interestingly enough. Before I dived into a concept that I think I've come to coin, dreamer's guilt, I wanted to talk about what survivor's guilt meant. Survivor's guilt isn't a modern phenomenon. It's been documented from war veterans to disaster survivors, even in literature for centuries. Psychologists often link it to a sense of responsibility and morality. So it's a good thing in a way. It's part of what makes us empathetic beings, and it can spiral into something unhealthy. And if left unchecked, both survivor and dreamer's guilt evolve feelings of undeserved success or fortune. but they arise from different contexts and different distinct emotions underpinning. In this episode, I want to share my experience as a dreamer and the associated guilt. Oddly enough, you would think as a dreamer, you shouldn't have any guilt when someone thinks of dreamer's guilt. It's actually not ridiculous because in order to dream beyond what you see and what you read, there takes this sense of internal tugging, pulling, that there is something more, there's something different here. And then getting comfortable with that thought. I don't think anyone wants to be unlike the others. I don't think anyone makes that pursuit. But a little bit more about dreamer's guilt. It is always feeling like you need to do more to deserve your own purpose, to do more to deserve your own blessings. It is absolutely wired in a weird way. And I can't tell you necessarily where my dreamer's guilt come from, but I can pinpoint moments where I said to myself, this is not it. This can't be the appropriate way. But always making sure that your internal compass of who you are and how you treat others and how you allow others to treat you is aligned with your intentions. Because often we can get a little beside ourselves, as McGregor would say. You start to smell yourself and get too comfortable with what is and forget about what will be and what the purpose is. It is not just to be. It is not just to exist. It is not just to pursue the notoriety or the people or the fame or the things. It is for a purpose. It is for the people. It is to ensure that we amplify a space where it is comfortable, where it is free to say, I'm not sure where I'm going, but I am confident about my next step. And my next step is not the next step everyone thinks it should be. It's not the system or the structure that was laid out for me. There are many people who live a very courageous life, and they deserve all of the credit for that, because to be courageous means to go it alone in some way, hopefully with by your side. But it's often to break away from this system or this process of what you were told was definitive. And I think in today's age, we know there's nothing definitive. The concept of finding a good job at a good company and working for 30 years and getting a good pension and then living your life. I think we already have uncovered that hoodwink. Or to be a struggling artist. Because struggle is great? No. I think to dream and also to pace is equally important. Take your time, like I am, with this podcast. One episode at a time, each concept at a time. Ensuring that this conversation in these spaces are not just words over a beautiful background and some clothes and some makeup, but often really making a difference. Creating a space where you can really be yourself and talk all you want to talk and not be seen as one thing or another, rather, and another. So thank you so much for joining this episode of How Do You Divine Dreamer's Guilt. See you on the next one. Bye. Have you ever watched a show and thought, oh, damn, I love that show? Believe the lousy base of LeBron James' rise or fall as one of the best basketball players ever. He entered the league, not a question, a statement. He is one of the best basketball players ever. Argue with your mama. But while LeBron was able to bring along Maverick, who was his right-hand guy, his girlfriend, now wife at the time, and raise this amazing family and have this amazing ecosystem, I'm sure there are people he had to leave along the way. And on the early stages, I'm sure there was some sense of guilt about those people, why they couldn't understand and why didn't they want more for themselves. Maybe they wasn't athletic and maybe basketball wasn't their calling, but doing nothing, settling for life that's just to exist and not to live. What kind of life is that? And over the journeys of Dreamer's Guild, it made me realize that just because someone's life doesn't mirror the one that I feel they should have does not mean it's not a bad life, right? So that's not what dreamer's guilt is. Dreamer's guilt actually originates from achieving personal dreams and success and opportunity, especially others in your community and family and social circles have not had the same. Maybe they don't know who they are or what they want out of life. Is that fair to them or you for you to feel guilty about that decision? Or is it a sense of responsibility that you feel like, let's just say from a resource perspective, you have 5 and they have 1, so you owe them to share? Often seen individuals who break barriers, achieve upwardly mobility, and leave behind difficult situations to pursue a better life. The feeling of guilt of even earning a college degree when others in your family couldn't afford to. Guilt is guilt. And then, because I'm someone who believes that your intentions are led in some way by your emotion and your moral compass, I think it's important to talk about this because I often feel some sense of dreamer's guilt that stems from maybe mom guilt, right? As I pursue this career and building my podcast, this is time I'm taking away from them. This is time that I could be focusing on building my career. Sounds familiar? It might. Maybe you felt, or maybe you know someone who felt somewhat similar. Why do we experience this? It's an odd thing that you are pursuing a goal and a dream that you think will change everyone's life in your ecosystem, but then you're guilty about the pursuit of that dream. I don't know. Our brains are wired for empathy, which is usually a beautiful thing. It helps us connect and care for others. But after the aftermath of a traumatic event, or the same empathy of the twist and the guilt of me wanting to bring everyone with me, guilt is guilt. There's also a sense of responsibility, even if there's nothing you can have done or nothing I can even offer. There is still this sense of guilt, this sense of disconnect. So I thought that in this episode, we'll dive into it and see if anyone feels that way. Who do you think you are to dream? Who do you think you are to pursue even that college degree or even that job that you may not even be qualified for? Who do you think you are? I want to take a moment here to just congratulate you for putting one step in front of the other, pursuing that dream, big or small, because it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of bravery. And the interesting differentiation between those two things is I think bravery happens in a moment. You are encountered with a situation and you need to know, do I fight? Do I act or do I submit? And I think in all of us, there is some sense of bravery because we want to survive that situation. But courage is a little bit different because courage requires subconscious belief. It requires a level of groundness, a level of certainty that you are acting in a way that is not only best for you, but best for others. You are acting in a way in which your faith and your relationship with God is driving you. I would say that my courage and courageousness stems from my relationship with God. I acknowledge the feelings, the guilt that thrives in the silence. I talk to someone I trust, family members. It exists. It definitely exists. Even as I shift my perspective, knowing that God put me on this path and this journey that He'd like me to pursue. That's why I don't chase anything. So I don't do beyond what I feel in that moment. I create a strategy and I alter it 10 times because I've never wanted to be too much of me and not much of Him. Honoring others through my actions, I dedicate time to the things that matter. Most importantly, my family, my daughters. I dedicate time to learning. I practice self-compassion a lot. Guilt is heavy, especially mom guilt. Then there's wife guilt. Then there's sister guilt. There's the guilt of the Caribbean. Because, we find guilt in anything. But guilt is heavy. But compassion is so light. And I find refuge in the sun. And I feel like I am light. So I take it one step at a time. There's no perfect way to handle dreamer's guilt. Everyone's journey is different. And maybe that guilt stems from something else. What's important is giving yourself time to heal on your own pace. Take your time. Everything is not, Rome was not built in a day. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with some highlights and some things that I've been thinking about. I have always journaled. And at one point, you could say journaling is like doing a diary. Nah, not really. Journaling is about fleshing out ideas. So I encourage you to flesh out your ideas. Put your thoughts on paper because often they circle in your mind and it's just not healthy. Everyone deserves peace. Dreamer's guilt is a sign of a big heart. That's what I keep reminding myself. It means that we care deeply. But caring for others should never come at the expense of caring for myself. And I know that due to the lovely lessons of my grandmothers. If you've been carrying some form of guilt, I see you. I hope this conversation gives you a little space to breathe, to reflect, to maybe even take the first step towards healing. But hopefully I've given you some insight on what it's like and what is dreamer's guilt. Is it the guilt of pursuing your own dreams or the guilt of not having the ability to bring everyone, or maybe knowing that you shouldn't? It's the guilt that comes with the pursuit of your dream. But thank you so much for joining this episode. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Let's keep the conversation going because growth happens when we lean in to uncomfortable and choose to evolve. And until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, because this guilt be guilty. Thank you for watching this episode of How Do You Divine? A little snippet of Dreamer's Guilt.